Okay, today's lesson is lesson 2, which is comparing and ordering rational numbers. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be comparing numbers using a number line and also ordering them and comparing them using common denominators or as decimals, using some sort of common unit, whether it's going to be decimals, percents, or fractions with a common denominator. So in this first example, you are going to use a number line, and you are going to have to do problems with a number line. So you might as well get used to the fact that you can't just do it any way that you want to do it. You are going to have to do some problems with the number line, and they will be on your test at the end. So in this first example, it says you're going to fill in the circle with a greater than, less than, or equal to sign. If you don't remember the difference between greater than or less than, you really should know the difference, but greater than or less than, I always thought when I was doing them, you want the mouth going towards the bigger number. Okay, less than has the less is first, and greater than the greater is first. Okay, so you do really need to know the difference between the sign. Okay, so the first example asks you to make a negative 1 and 5/6 and a negative 1 and 1/6 true. You want to know which one is bigger. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the numbers on a number line. So you're going to be given a number line on your assignment where you only have the negative 2 and the negative 1. And you're going to have to fill in the spots in between. And you're going to do that by looking at your denominators of your number. And since your numbers have a denominator of 6, or the common denominator is 6, you're going to want to divide your sections into sixths. And then you're going to graph those points. So a negative 1 and 1/6 is right here, and a negative 1 and 5/6 is down here. And which one is bigger? Now you have to remember, negative is the opposite of positive. So the larger the numerator is actually the smaller the number, because the further left on the number line, the smaller the number, because over here is 0, and then you have your 1 and your 2, etc. on this number line. So the further right you go, the bigger your number, okay? So this is the furthest right. So the idea is on a number line, the further right you are, and you might want to write that down, the further right on the number line you are, the bigger the number. You want to make sure that you have that written down, because that's going to be very important, okay? Okay, so once you have that copied down, if you need to pause your computer to copy it down, please do that. We're going to move on then to the example 8. So you have to, on this number line, you have to compare the fractions negative 5 and 5/9 and a negative 5 and 1/9. So you're given a number line that just has the negative 5 and negative 6 on it. Oops. And you have to, can't seem to manipulate my smartboard very well today, probably because it's a Saturday. You have to then divide it into equal sections. And you're going to want to divide it by looking at your denominator. This denominator is a 9, so you're going to divide it into 9 equal parts. That means if you want 9 equal parts, you're actually only going to draw 8 lines. Okay? And then on those lines, you're going to label your ninths. So this is going to be 1/9, 5 and 1/9, 5 and 2/9, 5 and 3/9, and these are all negative. 5 and 4/9, 5 and 5/9, 5 and 6/9, I lost count, 5 and 7/9, 5 and 8/9. And those are both negative. I think I'm negative sign there. Okay, and then you're going to plot your points. Negative 5 and 1/9 is right there. Negative 5 and 5/9 is right there. Which one is bigger? Which one is bigger? So you would say that a negative 5 5/9 is less than, because it's further left, a negative 5 1/9. That's what you would write for your answer. Okay? All right. Let's jump down to example number 2. Example number 2 now has you comparing fractions, getting a common denominator. So this is using equivalent fractions to compare. This is probably the most common way of comparing fractions, is using a common denominator. So if you have, in this first example, you have 7/12 and 8/18. You need to find a denominator that they have in common. And it's best, again, like I said before, we were doing adding fractions, to find the least common denominator, so you're not dealing with messy big numbers. LCDs is like the LCM of the denominators. So you want to find a number that 12 and 18 have in common that's at least as big as 18. So this is like when we were adding and subtracting fractions. And if you look at these two numbers, 36 is the first number that they have in common. Now, to do this, you have to say to yourself, okay, what did I do to 12 to get it to be 36? And I multiplied it times 3. So if I multiply 12 times 3, I need to multiply 7 times 3. 7 times 3 is 21. This is where those multiplication tables are really, really important. Now, you got to do the same thing over here. What did I do to 18 to get it to be 36? I multiplied that times 2. So if I multiplied 18 times 2, I need to multiply my numerator 8 times 2, which is 16. And now you know your answer. Which is bigger? 21 over 36 is bigger than 16 over 36, because these are both positive. So that would be greater than. Okay? I want you to do B, C, and D on your own right now. Be very cautious, because D is negative, so it's going to be the opposite. Okay, so pause your computer and do B, C, and D. Okay, B is 5/6 and 7/9. So 5/6 and 7/9 you need to have a common denominator. So the common denominator here for 6 and 9 is going to be 36, the least common denominator. So again, you need to ask yourself, what did I do to 6 to get it to be 36? I multiplied it times 6. So 5 times 6 is 30. What did I do to 9 to get it to be 36? I multiplied it times 4. 4 times 7 is 28. Now now you look at the two and you say, okay, 28 and 30, which one is bigger? 30 is bigger, so it's greater than. Now we go over here. 5 and 50. What is my common denominator going to be? It's going to be 50. So over here, I don't do anything. I just bring down my 7. But what did I do to 5 to get it to be 50? I multiplied it times 10. So I got to multiply that 1 times 10. Which one is bigger? 10/50ths. So that's greater than. Now we go to my negatives. Negative 9/16 and negative 7/10. So what is going to be my common denominator with 16 and 10? That's a hard one. And you can use your calculator and you can figure out what it could be. If you go through and just say, okay, I didn't even start with the 10. I just started with the 16 and started going, okay, 16 times 1, 16 times 2, 16 times 3, 16 times 4. And I did that until I got to 16 times 5. And 16 times 5 is 80. And then I knew then that 10 can go into 80 because I was just looking for a number that 16 could go into that it had a 0. Because you know that 10 is divisible by any number with 0. So then I said, okay, what am I doing to 16 to get it to be 80? I'm multiplying it times 5. So 9 times 5 is 45. But this is negative. What did I do to 10 to get it to be 80? I multiplied it times 8. 7 times 8 is 56. But again, this is negative. So these are negative numbers, and negative is different than positive. The smaller the negative number, the bigger the number. So which one here is smaller? 45 is smaller. So that's going to be greater than as well. Okay? If you got those right, you may move on. If you didn't, please go back and rewatch your video to make sure that you have a good understanding of what we just did. And then you can turn your page. Okay, so on this page, this is essentially the same thing. You're going to be comparing, but this time you're going to be comparing in a word problem. And they give you a situation in the word problem. And in this first word problem, it says that Mr. Hong's class, 20% of the students own roller shoes. But in Mrs. Trevino's class, only 5 of the 29 students own roller shoes. So now you're given a percentage and you're given a ratio. And you have to compare them. So you need to put them in some sort of equal unit. So this is what I was talking about. It doesn't matter what you put them into. I don't really care. But it has to be in the same unit. It is easiest to put it into a decimal. It is easiest by far to put it into a decimal. So you can say crazy old Mrs. Shaw, I'm not going to listen to crazy old Mrs. Shaw, or you can go by my recommendation of all these years of teaching math and all my experience in taking math, all of my life, all of the credits, all of my experiences, and say, you know what, Mrs. Shaw is probably very wise and smart. I'm going to listen to her and turn them into decimals. That really is the easiest way to go, and that's what I'm going to teach you to do. So 20%, anytime you have a percent, you know that all you do is move your decimal 2 spots to the left or divide by 100. So 20% is 0.20. 5 over 29 is a ratio, 5 over 29. So you're just going to turn that or divide it, 5 divided by 29. If you divide 5 divided by 29, you're going to get a very lengthy decimal. And I divided it out, and I came up with 0.72414. Okay? So you're going to compare these two. 0.20 was Mr. H's class. 0.72414 was Mrs. T's class. Which class had a greater fraction of students that owned rollerblades? Right? Oh, it's 0.17. Sorry, I forgot the one. I didn't think that was right. Mr. T's, or Mr. H's class owned more. Okay, so now, I forgot my one. That's what happens when you rush and you don't put down all the decimals. You have to make sure that you're doing that. 0.17, yeah, I forgot to write that one down. Okay, so now we're going to go down to the letter E. If I can scroll. Uh-oh, uh-oh. So E is the same thing. It gives you, having serious issues. Okay, E gives you a word problem. 37.5% of the students like to bowl in second period. 12 out of 29 like to bowl in fifth period. So second is 37.5%. To do that, we just move our decimal 2 spots to the left. So it's 0.375. That's second. Fifth period is 12 over 29. So we're going to divide 12 divided by 29. And if you do that in your handy-dandy calculator, you get 0.413793, and it might go longer. My calculator ended at that point. So which one has the largest percentage of students that like to bowl? That would be fifth period. So your answer is fifth period. Now on your assignment, I would want to see this work. That's part of your process. I need to see that work. Okay? The last part of your assignment is going to be ordering from least to greatest. Okay? So example number 4 is doing just that, where you're ordering a set of numbers from least to greatest. So this first example has you lining up the numbers. So you have the decimal 3.44. Then you have pi. Pi is 3.145926. I just put down a lot of digits. And then you have 3.14. And then you have 3.4 repeating. So I'm going to put a couple 4s down. Okay, now the idea is the first thing you need to do is make sure you have an even number of digits. Okay, so we really have right here, we have up to there, right? But you're going to, if you look, we have a 1414, so we're going to need to go at least one further. So you want to fill those in with zeros. Okay, so we have a 3.440, a 3.145, a 3.140, and 3.444. Okay, and that's where we're going to end, right here. Ooh. Right there. Okay, and we're going to compare. And you're going to put them in order from least to greatest. So a 3.4, you want to go, yes, least to greatest. So our smallest number, we have a 3.4, a 3.1, a 3.1, a 3.4. So our smallest is going to be one of these two. So the 3.14, 3.14, and we have a 5 and a 0. So our smallest one is going to be 3.14. Then next is going to become the pi, right, because that's 3.145. Then next is going to be the we have 3.444 or 3.440. That's going to be the 3.44. And then we have the 3.4 repeating. That would be our last. So now you do F. You order F. Remember, you need to put them all in a common unit of measure. Pause your computer and do that, please. Okay, F. 23% is 0.23. Then we have 0.21, 1/4, dividing 1 divided by 4, or knowing 1/4 is 0.25. And 1/5 is 1 divided by 5, or knowing 1/5 is 0.20. We have them all nice and neat as 2-digit numbers, so that's really nice. So looking at it, we all have 2, 2, 2, 2 as our first digit, so we're really going to be looking at that last digit. We have a 3, a 1, a 5, and a 0. And we need to order these from least to greatest. When you order them, you really should put the numbers that appear in your problem as well. Okay, so our smallest number is 0.20. That's the 1/5. Okay. Our next smallest number is the 1, so that's 0.21. Our next number is the 3, so that's 23%. And then our final number is the 5, that's 1/4. So that should be your order. Okay. The last problem is a word problem that doesn't really give you an example, but it pretty much is exactly what we've been doing, where you're just going to be comparing and putting a word problem where it gives you different units. You're going to want to put them all in the same unit. And again, it really is easiest if you change them all into decimals. All right, your assignment is to do the guided practice on page 274. You need to do number 1 and 2 on a number line. 3 is a word problem where you're going to compare, and then 4 is also a comparison to word problem. That needs to be done when you come back to class. Thank you.